So it can be any of the form. The load transformation takes place from the floor to the beam to the column and to the foundation. So, okay. So the Newton's third law has to hold good for any of this element. So what does the Newton's third law says? For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So all the loads from the building is transferred to the soil. So soil in turn has to capacity, since it doesn't have a hold between the two granules. You would have seen a soil or tested, or you would have seen on the way. So the soil has the granular members, and these granular members has very less intact pressure, so that whatever forces is transferred, within few seconds it goes off. The interaction between the two granules of a soil, that is the sandy soil, is very negligible. That's why the safe bearing capacity of the sandy soil is the least in the world. And also the clayey soil. Clayey soil has it comes next to the sandy soil. It's also very poor. It is not able to carry the pressure from the superstructure. So whatever soil you have in the site, you cannot change the site. Whatever land you have procured, for that type of soil only, you are supposed to construct the G+1 or G+10 or whatever may be. Normally the concept for building is how much height you are going to construct the building above the level of the earth. Half of the height must be beneath. That's a basic logic concept. Okay. So the various types of foundations which is recommended for different types of soils. You are not supposed to recommend the particular type of foundation for all the types of soils. Is it clear? So first you have to test the type or the nature of the soil, and in some of the strata means in some of the areas you have a natural boundary of stone platform inside the ground. So if you construct a foundation, the foundation goes and lies in the stone itself, or the rocky strata, which is there in the natural area. Okay, so that is a natural gift for the site. So if the foundation is laid or is supported in the stone or this rocky area, then the building will be very stable. Okay, so these are some of the configurations which you have to keep in mind before dealing with the before entering the civil engineering. Why you are studying the civil engineering course, and what is the basic idea, for what reason you are studying all these things. That if you understand that, you will enjoy each and every subject in every semester. And it should not be a very Herculean task for you that you have to score marks for that reason you are studying. No, you have to enjoy each and every subject for whatever reason you are studying, which will be useful for you in your future, for your application purpose. Everything has its own purpose. So the need for everything is interrelated. Says structural engineering is related to soil mechanics. Just now I have given you the outlet of how the soil is transferred and what is the need for understanding about the soil, and how only if you understand the soil you can go and give an outline of what building can be constructed in the particular type of soil. Each and everything is related. Okay, so structural engineering, soil mechanics, or water resources, or environmental, everything is related to itself. Okay, there is nothing odd out of it. You know, there is nothing superior. Every subject has its own superiority, and there is no, this is the first class and this is the second. No, everything has its own superiority. Okay, so in the mechanics of solids, the strength of materials, which you are dealing in this semester, basically deals with you would have studied the semester has begun for you, and you would have studied about the various stresses and strains mechanisms, the various modulus, elastic modulus you would have studied. Am I right? The classes, for the past few weeks, this is the idea which has been taught by your faculty members. So in the mechanics of solids, you would have been taught with the three different modulus, namely Young's modulus, bulk modulus, and rigidity modulus. So that's a basic idea, and everyone knows about that. So I don't want to touch much about that. And in a few minutes I'll just brush you up what is the basic idea of this elastic constants. So three different constants, namely Young's modulus, bulk modulus, and rigidity modulus. Young's modulus is defined as within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain. So what is meant by elastic limit, and what is the opposite for the elastic limit? You have the stress, which is plotted always in the y-axis, and you have the strain, which is plotted in the x-axis. Okay, so you have the plastic zone and you have the sorry, you have the elastic zone and you have the plastic zone. So what is elastic and what is plastic? Within the elastic limit, the member, if the force is released, it regains its original position and shape after the load is released. When a member is forced, for example, you people are seated in this chair. Okay, so now the chair is loaded by the individual weights. So after few times, you will be moving off the chair. You're not going to be seated in this chair for one day long. Okay, so you're going to be there in the chair for a few hours. So after you're moving off from the chair doesn't hold any load. It's not going to carry any load after you're moving off the chair. Seated in the slab. The slab is constructed with a material. The slab is constructed with a material which is called as the reinforced cement concrete material. Is it clear? So the factors of safety are applied to the load and also to the materials. So what is the factor of safety which is applicable for this load? This classroom would have been designed for an occupancy of 150 students, but actually it's not so. 50% allowance is given. So this classroom can occupy a maximum of more than 200 occupancy, and with a load mechanism. Indian Standard Code 875 prescribes particular loading conditions for a classroom, for an auditorium, for a theatre, for a complex, an industrial building or a residential building, whatever it be. Is it here? So Indian code prescribes certain load which has to be taken for any building. That you should not go beyond that, or you should not reduce the load also as per the code. Okay. So the factor of safety mechanism is applicable for the load and also for the materials. What are the materials? Namely, as I said in the earlier of my presentation, there are various materials which we are using in the construction, namely brick, timber or RCC. Okay. So RCC, in the sense, it constitutes both your concrete and steel. So in three ways the factors of safety are applicable. One is for the loads, another one for the material. Material means for the concrete and for the steel. Okay. So the factor of safety for the loads is 50%. Factor of safety for concrete is also 50%. Whereas the factor of safety for steel is 15%. Why the factors of safety for steel is less? So you can see when you draw the stress strain graph for any material, for concrete or for steel, it has two different layers. One is it behaves in the elastic zone, and after it crosses the boundary of the elastic limit, it goes up to the plastic zone. Elastic limit means after the load is released, it regains or it comes back to its original position and shape. Whereas after it crosses the elastic zone, it reaches the zone which is called as the plastic, where it takes up the load, but it is not able to regain its original position and shape within the plastic zone. But you cannot say that it is no more valid. It carries the load in the plastic zone also. But what is the main difference between a concrete and a steel? Concrete is very good in compression. C. Okay, the spelling C, concrete. It is very good in, universally you have only two different types of forces. Universally, okay. One is a push and a pull. We call it as a tension and a compression. Okay. So concrete and steel are two different materials which binds together to carry the two different forces, namely compressive forces and tensile forces. Concrete is very good in compression and steel is very good in the other way. If one carries one force, automatically the other one should carry the other force. Okay. So concrete C is good in C, compression. The other material steel is very good in tension, and vice versa. So for what reason the factors of safety for concrete is more, and for what reason the factors of safety for steel is less? In any RC member, you find that the material RCC, reinforced cement concrete, constitute much of concrete and less of steel. Okay, I'll repeat again. In any member, you can find that in any RC element, either it may be a slab, or it may be a beam, or it may be a column. I'll repeat again. The load transformation should be in this hierarchy. What is that? We people are seated in the slab. So the load is transferred from the slab immediately to the beam. and from the beam to the columns, and from the columns to the foundation. In turn, from the foundation, the load is transferred to the soil. So the safe bearing capacity of my soil should be capable of taking up the load from the superstructure, so that my superstructure is not disturbed. Okay. So if you are having, you may ask me a question. If my safe bearing capacity of the soil, I have procured a land, and if I have tested the soil samples in the land which I have purchased, the safe bearing capacity is very less. What I am supposed to do? There is a technique which is called as the stabilization of soil. What you can do? You can stabilize the soil, remove the soil for the boundary of your construction where you are going to build your building. You can excavate the soil from your periphery and then stabilize using you have lots of stabilization techniques which is applicable in India and abroad. We practice it nowadays also. So what happens, the very poorest soil can also be treated as the number one soil. When you enter the college, you are like a clay. But when you move on after the finishing of the course, the faculty members are molding you to a shape so that you are able to shine outside after you complete your degree. Similarly, the poorest soil is there in your building, that is there in your site where you have purchased the site. I am not going to do anything with that, means then it's of no use. So what you are supposed to do, the poorest soil can be stabilized to a topmost soil, whether you are increasing the safe bearing capacity by addition of some materials, so that is called as the stabilization of soil. Enriching the soil by addition of another material, or what you can do, you can mix 2-3 samples of soils. Again, you excavate the soil, you mix the different layers of soil, and then dump the soil, and then lay the foundation, and then you can start your construction work. This is the hierarchy of how you are going to do your construction in the real case, in the real site. Okay. So what I was trying to say you that is, in the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain, but in the plastic zone it's not so. So the concrete and the steel are the two different materials which behaves in such a way that in the elastic zone, both in the elastic and the plastic zone, concrete behaves more or less similar. Okay. Whereas the steel behaves exactly opposite to the concrete in the plastic zone. That's why the factors of safety for steel is lesser, the factor of safety for concrete is more. Is it clear? So whoever asks you, you should know to answer that. The factors of safety for concrete is much higher. It's 50%, and for steel it is only 15%. Why? Because in the plastic zone, the behavior of steel is extraordinary compared to the concrete. That's why the percentage of factors of safety is very less for steel. Is it clear? Why? Because if you test in the laboratory, you have the laboratory classes also. The steel behaves exactly twice in the plastic zones. The load carrying capacity is it increases abruptly in the plastic zone and then it breaks down. But concrete is not so. Is it clear? So this is the different types of material interaction, and you have studied the Young's modulus, which is defined as within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain. And you have studied about the bulk modulus. Bulk modulus is defined as the direct stress to the volumetric strain, and the modulus of rigidity, shear stress by shear strain likewise. Okay, and there are different the relationship between all the modulus and so on. The basic idea is what is meant by stresses and what is meant by strain. Okay, tensile forces, compressive forces, and the various elastic constants and moduli. What are the different moduli? Stresses, strain, Young's modulus, bulk, and modulus of rigidity, and so on. You can define it in either way. Okay. So after that, after knowing the basic logic of this, you should know for what reason you are going to study about the bending moment and shear forces. Bending moment and shear forces are the elementary of your engineering. Okay. So basically the civil engineering deals with these two elements. Wherever you go, this mechanism must be understood by all. Okay. So bending moment, to start with, I am just going to give you a glimpse of how to calculate the bending moments and shear forces. If you are interested, you can take down, and I want the people to tell me the answers. You would have got your calculators. Just give me the answer so that I can make sure that you have understood the logic or not. Okay. So bending moment is defined as, you would have studied about the bending moment is nothing but the product of force into the perpendicular distance. If a force is acting on a plane, I want to calculate the bending moment at any points within the periphery. I can calculate the bending moments which is given by the product of force into the perpendicular distance. And what about the shear forces? Shear forces within the plane on either side, equal and opposite reaction occurs, which is defined as the shear forces. Shearing. What is meant by shearing? You people are seated comfortably in a chair. Suppose the chair is not fixed in the floor. If you are seated immediately, that is, if you want to sit within a fraction of second, then you may skid at some time. So what happens when the skidding occurs? It occurs in, why? Because the floor is not able to transfer your load on the chair. That's why you sit and sometimes you topple also. Okay, so there the shear stresses, the shear forces are maximum, so that you are not able to sit comfortably in the chair. You are slipping out, or it is toppling you, not able to make you sit comfortably. It's called as the shear forces. So what is, how to draw the shear force diagrams and bending moment diagrams? I'll just give you a brief definition of it. So the shear force is defined as the algebraic sum of all the forces taken either to the right or to the left of the section. Shear force is defined as the SF. In short form we write the shear forces as S dot F. Okay, so shear forces is defined as the algebraic sum of all the forces taken either to the left or to the right of the section. Okay, so why it is either to the left or to the right? This classroom or this auditorium can be analyzed, or this classroom can be studied either from the left side of mine, or I can study this classroom from the right side of mine. So if I start from the left, my section is in the other side. If I start from the right, my section, what I am going to consider, my classroom is the other way. Okay, so shear forces is defined as the algebraic sum of all the forces taken either to the left or to the right of the section. So this is the normal sign convention which you have to take into consideration before you analyze any problem or analyze any program. Okay, so what is the sign convention? Section left side up and down is positive, and section left side down and right side up is negative. You remember one thing, so that the other way out becomes the other sign. If one is positive, automatically the other way of that must be negative. Similarly, in the case of bending moment, I repeat again, shear forces is defined as the algebraic sum of all the forces taken either to the left or to the right of the section. Algebraic sum of all the forces to the left or to the right of the section. Similarly, bending moment is defined as the algebraic sum of all the moments. In shear forces, we are dealing only with the forces. In the case of bending moment, it should deal with the bending moment. Bending moment is nothing but product of force into perpendicular distance. So how do you define the bending moment? Algebraic sum of all the moments either to the left or to the right of the section. You can see here, I have drawn two different diagrams. Section left side is a clockwise and right side anti-clockwise. So if you are analyzing section left side clockwise and right side anti-clockwise, it is positive, which is called as the sagging bending moment. Sagging means the deflection is downwards. The other way, section left side anti-clockwise and right side clockwise, which is taken as, it should be taken as negative bending moment. That type of bending moment is called as the hogging bending moment. So positive bending moment is a sagging bending moment, a negative bending moment is called as the hogging bending moment. Sagging bending moment means it sags down, the deflection is downwards. Hogging bending moment means the deflection is upwards. Hog, H-O-G-G-I-N-G. Sagging, S-A-G-G-I-N-G. Sagging bending moments are positive, hogging bending moments are taken as negative. Is that clear for all? Shall I proceed further? So, In your curriculum you have different analysis of how to study the bending moment and the shear force for different elements. Namely, in your syllabus you have the beams and the frames. So to give an introduction, I will just deal with one with the beams. So what do you mean by beams? So the load from the slab is transferred to the beams. There are various types of beams, as you have the different types of loadings. You have studied the various types of loadings. What are the various types of loadings? Concentrated load is called as the point load, and then you have the uniformly distributed load. Uniformly distributed means from one end to the other end, the magnitude remains the same. And what is meant by uniformly varying load? At one point it's 0, the other point is the maximum. It's a triangular loading. It's called as the uniformly varying load, or it is called as a triangular loading. So you have the point load or the concentrated load, uniformly distributed load or called as the UDL, and then uniformly varying load which is called as the UVL. Okay. So these are various loads, and these loads are acted in a member, in a beam. So the various types of beams are, you have the cantilevered beam, number 1. Number 2, you have the continuous beam. And number 3, you have the fixed beams. I'll repeat again, as the types of loadings are point load, uniformly distributed load, uniformly varying load. You have the beams types as number 1, cantilever beam, simply supported beam, and then the overhanging beam. You understand this logic of one type of beam. What are the types of beams I have highlighted? What are the different types of beams? One is a cantilevered beam, simply supported beam, and overhanging beam. So cantilevered beam means cantilevered. You have different types of loads, different types of beams, and then you have the different types of supports. What are the different supports you have studied? Fixed, simply supported or pinned, and rollers. Okay, fixed support, simply supported can be otherwise called as the pinned support or hinged support, and then you have the roller supports. Are you with me? Hello? Okay, all these it would have been taught for you. Am I right? So what is the fixed support? Fixed support is called as the rigid support. Okay, so what is meant by rigid? The support can neither translate nor rotate. You have 3 axes. One is the X, Y, and you have X, Y, and Z. Okay, so the rigid support or the fixed support can neither translate. Translate means it can neither move nor it can rotate either in the X, Y, or Z. It is arrested in all the 3 directions. It's called as a rigid support or the fixed support. It goes without saying. Rigid support is otherwise called as the fixed support. And then you have the pinned support or the simply supported. What is pinned support or hinged support or simply supported? All these are the same. Pinned support, P-I-N-N-E-D, pinned support, hinged support, and then simply supported. We have the windows and doors. Okay, all the doors has got hinges. Okay. So all the doors has got hinges means what can you understand by the hinges which is attached in the door frames or the window frames? All the hinges has 2 different supports. It can support in the Y axis and it can support in the X axis, but it cannot support in the other way. It can rotate. Why? Then only you are able to move you can able to open the door. Why? Because it is rotating. Is it clear? Otherwise, if your doors are fixed, then we have to be stuck inside. Clear? So, simply supported or the pinned support has the reactions, namely, this is represented as this. It can support upward and it can support to the horizontal. The equilibrium equations are, the various equilibrium equations are sigma V, sigma H and sigma M must be 0. Sigma V stands for the sum of the vertical forces must be 0. Sigma H stands for the sum of the horizontal forces must be 0. Similarly, sigma M stands for the sum of all the moments must be 0. Then only your system is said to be in equilibrium. Why it is said to be in equilibrium? If it is not in equilibrium, what happens? You are seated, again the same example. One example holds good for all the cases. If people are seated comfortably in the chair, so your vertical forces must be supported by the 4 legs of the chair. If not, then the other way up. Is it clear? So, since it is balanced, the force, downward force of us when we are seated in the chair is supported equally on all the 4 legs, so that my chair is not toppled or my chair is not disturbed. Is it clear? Similarly, H. Sigma H means horizontal force. If instead of the chair you have the rollers on the 4 legs, you are not going to be seated comfortably. It rolls up, right? So the hinge support or the pinned support has 2 different support mechanisms. It can support vertically, it can support horizontally. Similarly, the other one. What is the other one support condition I told you? The fixed. Fixed can support, it's a rigid support. So it can support horizontally, vertically and moment. All the 3 are arrested. In the hinge, it can rotate, but in the fixed, it can neither translate nor it can rotate. Similarly, a roller support. A roller support, if your rollers are there in the chair, you are not in a position, it rolls down. Even if you are not giving any pressure, the chair rolls down. What happens? It can support only vertically, it cannot support horizontally. These are 3 support conditions which you apply in any cases. Is it clear? So there are various types of loads, there are various types of supports, and you have the various types of beams, namely cantilever beam, simply supported beam. So you have the cantilever beam, you have the simply supported beam, and then you have the overhanging. I'll just give some example for all these things. Okay. So to start with the cantilever beam, draw the bending moment and shear force diagram for the beam shown in the figure. Just to start with, the very simple one, anyone can understand this. Okay? If you have understood this, then any n number of problems becomes easy, nothing for you. Okay? So as I told you, every subject has its own, every subject whatever you are learning, even mathematics also, only if you understand the basic mathematics what you studied in your second semester, you can apply that in the simple materials. Otherwise, then it becomes difficult. Mathematics also has an implication on whatever subject you are going to deal. Is it clear? So the integration or the differentiation, whatever you study in the mathematics, we apply in the different subjects in the higher semesters. Okay. So here is the cantilever beam. Cantilever means one end fixed, the other end free. Everybody might be knowing that. Okay. What is a cantilever beam? One end fixed and the other end free. An example is an example of a cantilever beam. It's a beam. Okay. So an example of a cantilever beam is your sunshade. So sunshades are fixed on the above your window or the door level. Am I right? The cantilever beam is fixed either above the window frame or the door frame, and it is free in the other end. Sunshades or the portico slab or the front lobby slab. So whatever you are designing, normally we design it as a cantilever slab. Is it clear? So the cantilever slab has 2 loadings as I shown here. One is all the loadings, 2 loadings are of same weightage and loaded at 2 meters interval. So I've named it as A, B and C. We are supposed to calculate the bending moment and then draw. Okay, so you being the students, what you are supposed to do, immediately seeing the question in your question paper, draw the problem which is given, then leave some space so that after calculation you can draw the diagrams in the space you have provided. So what I am going to do, I am going to leave some space so that it becomes easy for me to draw my bending moment diagram and shear force diagram. First you have to draw the shear force diagram, calculate the shear force and draw, and then secondly we are going to calculate the bending moment and the shear force. SFD stands for shear force diagram and BMD stands for bending moment diagram. So how to calculate? Remember the sign convention what I told you. For the shear force calculations or for the bending moment calculations, right side, left side of a section, and similarly bending moment, sagging and hogging. Sagging is positive, hogging is negative. That concept holds good. Okay.